would let us go to that movie theater on West Main Street, and we would see the great westerns of Hopalong Cassidy and Roy Rogers and Gene Autry.
I remember when we first moved to town, we'd go to the movie right here for a quarter.
My memories are being able to walk to the theater, even though we weren't able to, you know, access the same area as the whites. We had to go upstairs, but I remember the times when we could walk to the theater and see a movie.
We could get in, get whatever we wanted to eat, and that for a quarter.
My girlfriends and I, we would go to the show, and we had maybe had 50 cents.
At one time, they were shows, and I remember going to a Toby show.
Then we could go to the Ellis's drugstore and get us a cherry Coke and a hot dog. Our money went a long ways.
In the afternoon, we would walk home, stop at College Pharmacy and get us a soda.
The Red Goose shoe store, that's where my grandmother used to go buy my shoes.
I can remember they'd come through ever so often, and we'd run out there with Octagon soap wrappers, and they'd have, you'd get prizes, you'd get dishes and all for Octagon soap.
It was just fabulous to come to Statesboro as a child and be able to do these things.
We had such a good time.
The one thing that's missing out there on this porch is they had these big white rocking chairs. And they would sit out there and the people would be out there rocking. And I thought that was just so much fun to watch those people. And I loved to come uptown. I wasn't in town all the time because I was mostly in the country. But when I did come up here, I loved looking at those people sitting on the porch rocking. You know, that was fun.
I mean, it's so much different now.
And I remember uptown they used to have all the bricks around the courthouse. You know, the bricks, the streets was just brick.
A lot of people that come back that love Statesboro, and one of the first things they began to ask me, they hunt Bandy's barbecue is one thing.
I was in the band with William James over here, marching band, and I remember the parades and all. I loved it. We used to have a ball.
And then they say, well, the clock don't strike.
My first memories, I think, of just arriving in town was hearing the clock on the courthouse. If it would, you know, how the clock would chime when it was 12 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I had never heard a big clock chime, so my real early memories, like when I was 3 and 4, to go and hear the clock.
The town clock, you know, striking too, that is something that you miss.
And it's a shame that somebody can't fix the clock to strike.
And we all know ice cream and childhood create memories no one forgets. It's like it was yesterday when it comes to ice cream.
We would go to the city dairy and you could get these double dip ice creams. It was a regular cone, but it had two places to put ice cream. And oh boy, did we love that. We had a double dip.
But there was a time in downtown Statesboro when ice cream hadn't even been thought of for sale in a business. But country women knew exactly how to create those memories for their children on the farm, especially if it snowed.
Everything was just covered, just as white. Did y'all make ice cream? Lord, yes. My brother gets so aggravated with us, and 3 or 4 of us. Getting us a cup and a spoon and going and getting stove and getting in that kitchen, getting some sugar and flavoring and fixing our ice cream.
One thing I missed as a child living on South Main was hearing people walk, be coming up the street and singing and whistling, as happy as could be, and didn't have nothing. You don't hear people sing and be happy like they used to. You never hear nobody whistle.
No, it's not quite the same anymore here in Bulloch County.
If times get hard, you won't have the cars. You won't be able to drive and go. Be more walking to buy your groceries, more like it was back in those days.
It was a time when a little moonshine and some snuff were about the worst rebellions you could expect from the neighbor's child. But of course, never your own.
She used to go down to the branches between our house and their house and break them limbs off them black young trees and get her mother them brushes. And her mama would sit with that snuff jar and she'd get that. I can just see her right now.
I can remember the boys when we lived at what we call the Proctor place. That was the place near a Stilson. That was a huge farm. I'd say close to 1,000 acres, and there was a big barn on the property up that housed the mules, and we had the corn there and the hay. It had a huge hay barn. And the boys, my two brothers, they would make corn buck up in the hay loft. And I, of course, was right there watching them, what they were doing, and they would put some corn in a bottle, and then they would let it ferment, and then they knew how long it had to do, and then they would say, now we'll let you taste of this if you'll help us with something. And I'd say, well, just what is that? Well, I want you to go to the house when Mama's not there and get a strainer and a clean cloth. And we got to strain this up, but you can't let Mama see you because she might know what we up to. I said, oh yeah, I'll do that. So they put me up to a lot of their dirty tricks.
So much from those days has come and gone. Pastimes like participating in cane grindings.
That was great. Always at my granddaddy's at cane grinding. It was such a big time and such an exciting time.
When they would have the cane grinders and everything, it's usually in cold weather and everything, and they would have cotton sheets that would hang around the shed that had the boiler in, and the adults would sit around while they were cooking the syrup and everything, and they'd have time to visit and have, you know, a good time talking and everything. And the children would always play.
We had a cane meal and furnished shelter.
That really was a social event, even when I was a child.
That would be a gathering of the neighborhood. I mean, you'd get together and grind the cane with them. He had a mule that pulled the cane grinder.
And they would go around and around pulling that pole to grind the cane. And someone would feed the stalks of cane in there, and then there was a barrel or something that would catch the juice. Then it was carried to a syrup boiler, which was a great big cast iron cooker, I guess you would call it. It was, I don't know how deep it was, but it was enough. A lot of people used it even to wash clothes and all. But anyway, they would cook the syrup in there because they had where they could put fire underneath that boiler. And they would cook that, and then they would take the skimmings off of it.
And that was the community would come together for syrup making.
But there's a little secret in the sauce. Apparently, it ain't over till you've skimmed the top of the syrup.
And a lot of people were accused of making something to drink out of the cane skimmings.
And mothers making home remedies to help family members make it through an illness.
There was a thing called fever grass. That was the awfulest stuff that you could ever, besides castor oil, that was the worst. She would make some kind of tea, and we would drink that, and that would keep us from, it would help a cold, you know.
My aunt, my brother had what they call boils, which was real bad risings. I think they were worse than a rising and everything. And she would take and get these, one of these real sticky cactus, you know. She'd take a newspaper and she'd take a machete and she'd cut the piece of the cactus off and let it fall on that newspaper. And then she would trim off all those, that skin and everything that would get all those stickers off of it and everything. And she made a poultice out of that. And she put it on my brother's boil, and it went away. It never did come back.
Then she would give us sassafras root. That was something we would drink, the sassafras tea. I don't know what it was for.
Yes, there were many things they did differently back then. Something as simple as brushing your teeth, for instance, wasn't handled quite like it is today.
It will suck off the back of the chair, you'll wipe your teeth. Like just put it on a cloth and rub it on your teeth. And then rinse your mouth. You can break your little limb off of them black gum trees and make a little box like on the end. That's right.
We would use baking soda and salt. That's what we did cleaned our teeth with.